Hey everybody, Jessie here, and I just am bringing this month's video. We just are on top of an incredible full moon that is bringing us rapid, fast, unexpected changes that are going to be touching us in deep personal ways and just really resonating for us as an individual this month. So it's exciting. I came out here. It's a crisp fall morning, and this that you see behind me is actually a place I haven't filmed here before. And this is the ski area that's in the Sioux Falls area. So pretty soon this is going to get to be a very, very busy area because we are dropping in temps and it is starting to get cooler and cooler and cooler here. But this month's video, a lot of you have been hearing me talk about how we need to release addictions. We need to let go of this. The timing is here. And man, this full moon is going to drive it home. And I'm already seeing that with some friends and people in my life where they have been given the so-called grave warnings. It's like change your life or you're going to die type of thing. And it's really, really serious for them. And it started to trigger for me. I thought to myself, I haven't really looked at what the codes are behind addictions. I've looked at telling people they need to release their addictions, but not giving them some of the bigger pieces maybe behind that. So I thought I would take the time for this month's video and do that. Now, when we look at addiction and addictions and addict, we have three really interesting key components that come into play here. And what this is about, the addictions that we have or the addiction that we develop in our life, and that could be anything. Right? That could be our traditional ones like drugs and alcohol and sex, but it can also be to people or to places or to things in our life, things that touch us on some deep sentimental level. And those are probably really going to be heading home right now because we're getting nearer and nearer to that time of the sun entering into Scorpio, which of course brings all that deep stuff up and shows us, and it's going to be shedding light on where we have those addictions and where those deeper ones are for us. So in that process, what we're looking at is addiction in the realm of codes actually shows us that we're trying to take charge, or we're trying to connect with that piece in ourself that is in charge or in control. So if you think about that, when somebody's addicted, say, to drinking, and they drink, and they're drinking because there's some sense of maybe control or release of control in there. Maybe they're overburdened by the sense of control. So we have this kind of commanding aspect where they're either thrust into a position that they don't want to be in, or they may be in that aspect of trying to feel more of a sense of control. And as we know, a lot of times leaders and people in control aren't. They feel very insecure inside. So there's a lot of different components to that. So we have that sense of wanting to be in control, wanting to, needing to take charge or take command in our life. And then we also have, with addictions in that plural sense, when people are developing multiple ones going on, that is our need to be able to take charge of our life, but needing assistance to do it. So it's almost like when we get into the multiple addictions, it's a cry for help to say, hey, I need some bigger support here. I need somebody to come in and show me what to do, in a sense. I need a mentor. I need a guide. So oftentimes people with multiple addictions, that's what they're needing. They're needing some sort of sense of mentor or guide in order to help them take command of their life. Now, when we look at the energy of the addict, this is really interesting as well, and I think you're going to find this component interesting. The addict is actually a person who operates on love. They actually operate on eternal peace and that kind of immortality energy, which is the divine energy. So the addict is using their addiction to try to connect with that immortal love and peace, which they're not finding in their outer world. So they're trying to, knowingly or unknowingly, create that in their outer world through being an addict. I found this such an interesting piece. When I looked into it, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. It makes so much sense because they don't have that peace, so they develop the addict aspect in order to try to find it. So the addict is really trying to connect with that. And as we know, in a material world that's a 3D world, it's really, really hard to find that sense of immortal peace. So they need to be really cautious about who they're hanging out with. They need to really pick the people that are going to open them up and be in those realms of circles that are going to give them those senses and those vibrations and connect them more with divine spirit and divine presence. Now, we also have within this whole realm of addict and addictions and being, you know, and the addiction itself, we have some really key components within that. We have the sense of home. We have the sense of success. We have the sense of victory. We have the sense of being in a space of prosperity. And so what's really interesting about that is when somebody steps into having an addiction, when they stepped into being an addict, these are all things that they're seeking. They're seeking that sense of home. Not the home like our physical house, like a building that's here behind me, for example, but a real home. They're sensing that immortal home is what they're trying to connect with in there. So a lot of these people who are addicts are maybe sort of we could call them maybe a sort of transitory soul. They're moving from an all material world base in their soul process to a much more spiritually based. They're seeking more and more for the spiritual, but they haven't quite found the real techniques to do it. So they seek out the alcohol, the drugs, the sex, or whatever the addiction is, the person, the place, whatever it is that gives them any sense of that, or you know, at least they think they're getting that sense. As we know, those are all false senses because they're coming from without. The addiction is always outside of ourselves instead of within ourselves. Because once we go within, we stop having that addiction. It's not an addiction in there. It sets up whole different patterns. So recently I had some friends that were told, okay, you got to stop smoking. This is really bad. You know, you're at that stage, you're going to have to stop. And it was funny because I had sensed that, and a couple of days prior to them contacting me and telling me this, I was like, oh my gosh, I, you know, kept getting all this stuff about smoking addiction coming in, and maybe I was supposed to do something about that with my video this month. And so when I looked at that, of course, the individual addictions have their own refined core pattern that you know specifies within it more specifically what the sense of home is about for them. But in this aspect, I told him, I said, well, you know, actually, this is a really good thing because you're supposed to be releasing the addictions anyways right now. So it's actually a good thing that you're catching it at this stage. But what I started to look at was I was getting this aspect of breathing, for example, because I've dated a couple of smokers in my younger years, and they'd always say, well, they relax when they smoke. But we know physiologically that's not possible because we know that the smoking is actually a stimulant. So they're getting both this energy in a sense and they're getting the relaxation. Well, I thought to myself, well, what's really creating that? Is that actually the tobacco creating that or something else creating that? And what I realized was that it's the deep breathing. When somebody is smoking, it's the deep breathing that they're getting the benefits from. That's where they're getting the relaxation and the energy from. So as I told my friends, I said, you know, you need to get into some deep breathing techniques in there because the deep breathing is what you're really getting the experience from. And the same thing is true whether we look at the sexual things. For example, the sexual things are more about a certain endorphin release that's going on. It's about the physical exercise. It's about being 100% into a physical exercise, for example. It's also about union and connection in different ways. So there's those aspects. And so starting to find the substitutes. We know with drinking, a lot of times that's about escaping something. We know a lot of times that is, again, that sense of wanting to find the immortal home. It's about knowing thyself and feeling like you're not ready to deal with it. It's about relaxation. So going into the meditation spaces, for example, can allow us to deal with things that are happening in our life. It can allow us to go into those relaxation spaces without the alcohol. Because, you know, and that's the whole key is, well, what am I getting out of this addiction? and then finding the substitute. Because when you're leaving an addiction behind, it's not just about leaving the addiction behind, because if you haven't taken care of what that addiction was providing, or give yourself a substitute that provides you with a healthier option to what that addiction was providing, then you're going to continue to have the cravings. You're going to continue to have that tendency to go back to the addiction. So you want to bring in that healthier option that helps you actually get the response, get the feeling, get the vibration, get what you were seeking from it in a way that's non-addictive. And you can definitely do that. So I hope this sheds some light for you and for maybe some people you're dealing with in your life as well, and just open some great doors. And man, isn't this incredible? This incredible fall time of year. Enjoy it, because you know, life is always changing and it's always shifting. And don't wait until something gets too serious in your life before you make that change. This is the time, and if we don't do it now, with all the planetary influences that are going on, it's going to get turbulent and it's going to get to be a bumpy ride. And I'll tell you, it is so much easier when you choose to do it. It's so much easier when you consciously get on board with it. Hey, take care, everybody. Have a great month, and I'll be seeing you soon. Who knows from where? Take care. And if you want to connect with more of my work, the coding work, find out about things that I'm doing with caves right now. I'm doing some incredible things with caves. That's a big exploration I'm doing. You can check out things both on my website, www.compassioncodes.com, or you can also check out things through my GoFundMe page. I just set up a new GoFundMe page, which is gofundme.com/code explorations. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.